Hi, this is Carl, and this is another SOP video for managed service providers. So I've got a little mini-series going here talking about fine-tuning your service board and using the analogy of a conveyor belt. So sometimes the conveyor belt gets stuck. So let's talk about what that means. In your ticketing system, what that means is that there are tickets that, for whatever reason, don't get attention. They are kind of forgotten. They're lost. They've fallen off the side of the service board, off the side of the conveyor belt. So how do we address that to make sure that tickets are never lost? Well, there's a handful of simple things that you can do. First of all, when tickets are super low priority, there's always a concern that they're not going to get dealt with at all. So there's a couple of things you can do for that. First of all, you can increase the priority of a ticket that's old. So depending on how many tickets you have in your system, you might say after 30 days, a ticket moves up to the next level of priority. So if a ticket is a priority 4, it's a low priority, and it's been in the system for 30 days, it moves up to a medium priority. And that way it's much more likely to get attention. Second, you can have a standard operating procedure that whenever you go out to a client's office, you print out all the tickets for that client and you try to work through as many as you can. Let's say that you have a 1-hour minimum on site. You do what you came for, and then you fill up the rest of the hour knocking out all of those tickets that have been super low priority. Third thing that you can do is scheduling. I don't like scheduling 99% of the work we do, but every once in a while you can say, look, here's what we're going to do is on Thursday afternoon, we're going to take 2 technicians and all they're going to do is work on low priority tickets just to make sure they get into the system. Now, to be honest, you don't need to do that very much if you have a system where they move up to medium priority. So that's a couple of the ways, or a few of the ways, that you can make sure that low priority tickets don't get lost in the system. Now, the other way that tickets can get lost in the system is that they've got the wrong description or the wrong configuration. So, for example, if you've got a ticket that says, set up Lisa's machine and make sure that it's got the latest version of Office, well, that's 2 things. That should be 2 tickets. And I know it seems very simple, but you should have 1 item per ticket, because what can happen is you set up the machine, but then there's a problem getting her license installed on that machine. I don't know what the problem is. Doesn't matter. The point is you've completed the setup of the machine, just not the installation of Office. So you have to separate those things. And, you know, the service manager really has to be the one to decide when things are too closely related, how do you divide it into 2 things? But very frequently, it's pretty easy because one will be setting up the machine and the other one will be setting up something completely unrelated, a new printer or the CRM or something like that. So separate those things out. So that's a 4th thing you can do, is to make sure you've got 1 title per ticket. The titles are accurate and you have 1 issue per ticket. Another way that things sort of get lost in the system is that a ticket can be half done and then go on hold for some reason and kind of get forgotten. And that should never, ever, ever happen. So next video, we're going to talk about getting things out of your system, but the 5th thing I want to talk about today is not that things drag on like a project that never ends, but that you've got a ticket half done and the status might be, oh, we're waiting on parts, or we're waiting on payment, or we're waiting on a client, or something like that. And what happens is nobody ever looks at the on hold status, right? So the problem there is that you've got something it's in a legitimate spot inside your system, but nobody ever looks for it. So again, the service manager's job has to be at least once a week to make sure you look at every single ticket in the system and make sure that nothing just sits on hold forever and ever. If you ask your clients what irritates them about bad service from IT service providers, one of the hot issues is going to be problems that never, ever, ever get solved. Things that just last forever. And you know, at the end of the day, this isn't your decision to make about what constitutes an important problem for the client. If the client thinks that tickets take forever, then they take forever, and you have to address that. For Small Biz Thoughts, this is Carl Palachuk, wishing you the best of luck in your managed service business. Like it if you like it, share it with your friends, and absolutely subscribe to the channel.